It's taken me a little longer than I would have liked to get my summer bod together, but I'm feeling body confident. So before summer is up, I wanted to take a look at some swimsuit cosmetics, outfits, costumes, especially Marvel Rivals. Quick tangent, I'm not usually one for swimsuit cosmetics. I feel like they can, out of anything, fall especially flat, just be very generic, so cliche, and very fan servicey, which isn't the most conducive to, I feel like, an interesting, multi-dimensional fashion style conversation. But if I haven't gushed enough over Marvel Rivals, I was thoroughly impressed. Not thoroughly, but like impressed enough by some of the additional expansion of the summer or swimsuit outfits in that game. Like, if there's any other reason for me to love the outfits, here's yet just another wave of it. But in case I'm being especially biased, I wanted to kind of root myself, contextualize some of my taste in these outfits with swimsuit cosmetics and other franchises. So I figured I would take a look at just a few that usually resonate with me the most, or just like have a wide selection to choose from fighting games to 5 versus 5, and just kind of see, is Marvel Rivals really still holding the crown as far as cosmetics are concerned? So in this video, I'm loosely ranking the few franchises that I looked at from least favorite to most favorite. Very loose. I mean, it's not like a hard and fast criteria, just really based on the unique distinction that the individual character swimsuit or outfits have. Like, is it just a swimsuit you could go to the store and buy? Is it really extremely based in realism exclusively, or is there at least a little bit of stylization that adds some taste, flair, and flavor to the styles? And to kick this off, I'm immediately just gonna go straight into the fighting game franchises. I feel like out of any sort of video game series or franchise or installment, it's fighting games that can be especially amongst the most cliche and generic, very fan servicey. And what I find most surprising is that there are a select few like installments or franchise, Tekken, King of Fighters. Street Fighter, I feel like, has only recently gone into the fashion game with 6, but especially Tekken and King of Fighters, I feel like there's some nice quirky touches to the individual character outfits. So then when we pivot over to swimwear, it's a little underwhelming to see that we're just immediately defaulting to some of the most generic swimwear that you can get. While based in realism and having a high level of practicality in parallel to our real world selections, especially as far as hot, body confident characters, I just don't feel like we're getting as strong and I think as high potential of a translation from the default character outfits and some of their unique flair and like archetypes and structures into the swimwear. Tekken, I was especially surprised by, just to see how like cookie cutter the swimwear was. While a little bit more of like a fashion style taste, we see that a lot of the women have at least some of their key core accessories going on. I love a little bit of the wrap. I love some of like the chain on the bikinis going around the waist, but they're all pretty much wearing the same thing. Like, there is no distinct style from character to character. So I'm just kind of like, what's going on here? Even within the men's, it's especially flat as well. Just like an open shirt and some swim trunks, maybe a sprinkle of a Speedo and a brief here and there. Like, definitely want a little bit more than that. Patterns and color variations just aren't enough to do, I think, like especially heavy lifting to give us something that's innovative, unique, refreshing. But I feel like fans of the fighting game franchises don't really care. Like, they love some style and some flavor where they can get it. They'll get some DLC cosmetics and outfits, but they're not gonna, I think, get too much of an uproar, maybe with regard to the lackluster, one-dimensional variety and spectrum of looks that we get. I don't know, you tell me. So then looking at Street Fighter, I mean, historically, when I've looked at least a few of the varied outfits for some of the more prominent main characters, that's also been a bit generic, nothing really too inspiring, but I did see some glimpses of some concept art for a select few characters as far as some swimsuit outfits are concerned, and this is headed in more of a direction that I think is interesting, adds at least maybe a slight sprinkle of individual character touch, and even I think is somewhat parallel to a little bit of what we're seeing with regard to maybe a couple of characters in Marvel Rivals. So I want to take a look at those and unpack that a little bit more. Starting with Cammy, and I would say that maybe she's the most underwhelming to me, because I mean, there's not a lot going on here, but she's already extremely body confident in some of her default design anyway, especially her classic look. But what I appreciate most here is just the utility elements. Love utility belt and like garter belt pouch elements in general, but in combination with the swimsuit, I feel like that's where at least we're getting a sprinkle of some of that individual personal style. And I mean, the straw hat's cute. There's little accessorized touches, but I definitely feel like we could have done more here. But I mean, it's a fighting game. So now Chun-Li, you know what? They've been really good with giving her some more reserved, conservative, very classy actually, and flattering designs that, you know what, let those legs come at us, let those legs thrive. So I can't say that I'm like the most impressed by this. She has some additional accessories that kind of somewhat make it her own, but I wouldn't say that it's a standout and really moving her past what we've seen in other female swimsuit wear across the other fighting game installments and franchises. I definitely can't dog it because we're getting something very similar in Marvel Rivals, so it just kind of is what it is. Now Manon, we already know that she's the fashion queen, and so I would hope that they would have her come through and represent a little bit of that. And in their own way, they kind of do. Plenty of strong gold accessories, but it's really that shirt or that like cropped robe, whatever you want to call that, that I think is kind of helping give a little bit more of that stylistic touch. I appreciate that when we get some incredible one-piece or two-piece bikini situations, if we can at least have some sort of other garment just to kind of round that out and complement. I feel like it only complements the figures. If anything, it just really highlights the dimension, the shape of the form, and the figure. And I feel like that's definitely what we're getting here with some very sharp accessories. Kimberly was also a character that was already very body confident. So again, not surprising. And the little individual touch here, I just literally said I like when we get another garment, is just that cropped jacket. Love a cropped jacket. And it just adds a little bit more of that extra sporty, urban, kind of like streetwear touch to her design, which I feel like is core in what we saw in her default. With, again, the kind of Walkman situation that she has going on, which contributes further accessorizing. So appreciate what you can get where you can get it. I definitely think that the Street Fighter Capcom team is definitely on the right track. Aki, I will say that I was a little kind of like, with regard to this one. I feel like we could have still had something that was just as sleek. I really love the top to the swimsuit. I think that that's a nice differentiator. It's just the wraps that I think are kind of throwing me off a little bit, and I don't feel like that was as prominent of kind of an element within her core default design or even some of her alternatives. I feel like she had some really striking reptilian or just like other elements that really made her designs chic, and I feel like this doesn't give as much chic as it could. I'm curious to see if maybe this could pivot to something just a little bit more sharp and has a little bit more shape than just something that just feels like it's kind of torn, tattered, and thrown onto her. Now getting into the guys, you know, with Luke, I feel like this kind of does fall along the lines of something that is somewhat typical men's swimwear, nothing all that inspiring, but when we look at his kind of, I think, default design, especially within 6, it's a little bit along those lines of just like simple, straightforward, effortlessly cool guy style anyway. So not all too surprising. A little bit of that lifeguard situation kind of echoes a little bit of what we're going to get from Thor in Marvel Rivals. So I mean, I can't be like, ugh, although there's a definite difference in body confidence there. It's cool, it's hot, it's masculine, it's strong, and I feel like it's definitely flattering for his character. But Jamie consistently impresses me with the style. The way they give him such complementary, fashion-forward, two-piece coordinated sets is incredible. I love that it's a vest and not just like a whole shirt just opened up. It's a cropped vest situation. He really rocks those cropped elements from some of his designs to designs and outfits. Kind of would have liked if the shorts were a little bit shorter, like just go ahead and go there for us a little bit more. I feel like if there's a character that could pull it off, it's definitely him, but at least we get some very striking design within the trunks that just kind of helps further tailor this to his personal style and just gives it a little bit more pop than something that could have been as flat otherwise. All right, not doing as crazy of a deep dive across all of the fighting games, can maybe make that like a follow-up look, but just giving us a little bit of a taste of what one kind of genre of game can give us as far as swimsuit, summer, beach, body confident wear. Now let's move into more of the 5 versus 5 realm, because I feel like that's most comparable to Marvel Rivals. And I'm gonna start with Overwatch, because I feel like in general, some of the feedback that I had on Overwatch default designs was that they just felt especially like geary, like they just felt like gear, like straightforward gear, not super fashion. I feel like especially the alternative outfits get really rigid as far as the overall similar structure of the character that they have by default, so we don't really break out of that too much. So curious to see how their swimwear would come to life, especially in a game that's a little bit more catered towards diversity, a little bit more cozy, for lack of a better way to put it. And they also have a general like lifeguard situation, and Cassidy's look definitely, I feel like, falls along the lines of almost what we really just saw from Luke to an extent from Street Fighter 6. It's not the most like interesting, not the most unique or innovative, but at least like with the straw hat as a variation to his hat, and just with like the towel, there's just at least some small touches that make it feel a little more tailored, a little bit more fun, and a little bit more stylized. Not so real world rigid, just a little bit more fantastical. So I can get into it. Sombra's Tulum outfit is like, are you starting to see what I'm talking about with like the gear? Like it just feels like scuba gear-ish. It feels like wetsuit-esque, and I like that's cool. It's not as like, I'm looking for a little bit more punch. It doesn't have to be that extreme fighting game community, hot, sexy, like Sports Illustrated cover model situation, but just when we're kind of really staying within that safe gear realm. Not as fun, but at least it's a nice, somewhat more body confident variation to her design. Now, Widowmaker, I'm not surprised. If there's one character that they would go there with a little bit more, it would be her. And I definitely love what we're getting here. Definitely falls along the lines of what we got from the Tekken girly outfits, though, just with always love a wrap. I feel like like I was saying with Street Fighter 6, if there's another garment in the mix, it helps change it up, gives us more pattern, gives us more palette for some design and just artistic touch. But it's not the most, again, innovative, like, whoa. And we're going to see quite a bit of this within League of Legends as well. But as far as what we've gotten, and I think in the full concert of what we get from Overwatch, I think that this is one of the strongest. What I've noticed with Diva is that they really do give her more sporty oriented styles. Like this is Wave Racer, and I get that having a mech maybe kind of leans more in that territory anyway. Automotive. I don't know what I want from her character. I want something a little bit more punchy, like Widowmaker. I want something a little bit more in your face. Not so body confident extreme, not so fan servicey, but I don't know. I just kind of would have liked to see something a little bit different, but similar to Widowmaker, I feel like out of the full concert of looks that we get in this franchise, this is a fun, cutesy, girly, somewhat sassier look that I can appreciate. Hanzo has served us plenty of male body confidence, and this look is definitely no exception. A little on the nose, absolutely, which is why Overwatch is being reviewed before League of Legends. It's just pretty like safe, typical, very practical, very functional, and I feel like does align with his personal style, but just kind of like, okay, like, I mean, whatever. But Torb, yes, this is what I want to see. And speaking of body confidence in all its shapes and forms, I feel like he is a great representative of that. So, and just the extra quirky fun elements. I love when there's more of like a rugged, tough male character, similar to Thor. We're gonna get there in Marvel Rivals. But when they can add some more kind of cutesy, fun, whimsical charms, as an interesting juxtaposition and contrast to that default ruggedness, I think it's just so fun, so interesting, just an interesting duality that gives this character so much more dimension in terms of their style, and love the full roundedness in the body confidence. Okay, just kidding. I think actually Ashe is the best swimwear situation going on as far as Overwatch is concerned, and I'm not entirely surprised. One of my favorite characters in terms of overall fashion and style. Not the greatest like range in terms of overall outfit structure, and we can even see in this that it does align pretty much with the core components that she has. The hat, the little bit of the wrap around the waist, and But really that's about it, because the rest of it is more of like kind of like fun, kind of almost reminds me of Caitlyn from League of Legends. And I think she actually did it better just in terms of the specific stylistic choices, especially with the wrap. But it's cute, it's fun, it's summery, it's body confident, plenty body confidence, but just enough of that extra little Ashe charm to make it a little bit more specific to her, even if it looks similar to some other styles that female characters have. Sigma definitely has more of that like gear, it's literally scuba gear, more of that typical Overwatch gear oriented design and situation that I'm just kind of like, not as like fun and interesting, but just given how overall metal suit dominated his design is, makes sense. There's definitely some parallel to that. And so I do also appreciate the bit of body confidence that we get. So, I mean, it's cool, it's straightforward, just not as like maybe super fashion as I would like to see. Then we have Mercy, Lifeguard, and Beach Rescue. It's cute. Like, I mean, it is what it is. Like, not the most inspiring. Anything that's gonna fall along the lines of like a cliche uniform is just gonna feel already a little bit limited in terms of the full creative range it can go. It's a nice touch. She's usually more kind of conservative, glamorous, and even though there's still some of that glamorous touch to even a more sporty design like this, but I don't know, it's just kind of like whatever. Although as far as Beach Rescue, I do like Farah's design. I feel like it's definitely much more body confident, we're getting much more of a glimpse of the figure in combination and in tandem with plenty of gear as well. So I feel like there's a nice balance there that kind of gives us a little bit of the best of both worlds. And if you were to remove the gear, I feel like we could see a nice utility, kind of like sporty swimsuit situation. It's almost similar to Cami, but not as extreme. So I don't know, I appreciate this one a little bit more for some reason. Kiriko's is also kind of a little bit more fun, especially just with how cultural her designs can kind of lean and strongly reside within. I feel like this is a nice break away from that, especially just with a little bit of body confidence in terms of the crop with that Lifeguard tank. And I like how some of the more kind of belted wrap work looks more like an actual like jacket or just a little bit more utility. And in this case, I like more of that gear touch. It just adds a little bit of a nice contrast to something that's a little bit more simple, effortlessly cool girl, crop top, sporty short situation. So it's actually kind of cute. And then Lifeweaver is kind of whatever. Outside of that like big flower situation that he has going on behind him that adds kind of a cool extra aquatic touch, the rest of the outfit's just kind of like on duty, clocked in to do lifeguardship, like whatever. I didn't want to overlook Junkrat, and you know what? They can often make some of the most punky, grungiest characters look chattish when it comes to this beach aesthetic and vibe, but you know what? I like it. I'm honestly into it. Love some body confidence, love a cleaner cut look, and this just helps me appreciate his character so much more. So definitely a refreshing look, although very cliche and not the most inspiring. And definitely didn't want to miss Symmetra. You already know I'm about homegirl over here, and I've discussed how as great and culturally inspired as her default look is, I love her in a much more sassy, even sexier look. This is so fitting on her, and even though it's a mermaid aesthetic, it brings her out of a typical beach and bathing suit structure and framework, even amongst other female characters, which just makes me definitely appreciate this all the more. A little gearish, but it still is giving a little bit ethereal nature. I'm into it. Now we're gonna pivot over to the Pool Party League of Legends skin collection. And even though League of Legends isn't like super hot topic right now, not everybody's like clamoring to talk and like get into it, I still feel like they have some of the strongest skins in terms of creativity out, like in terms of all like competitive fighting games and just like games in general. And I also just feel like this swimsuit situation shows a lot of diversity and a lot of tailored touch to the individual characters, which is kind of key in terms of what makes me want to buy a skin. I already touched on Caitlyn with regard to referring and covering Ashe in Overwatch. I feel like a very similar structure. Ashe has a little bit more of that style and flavor, I think, in the skirt element, but I love Caitlyn's just cute, simple, cool girl coordination going on. So really into that. Syndra, I feel like I appreciate just because it's just a little bit of a slightly different one bodysuit situation with a different kind of wrap. And of course, these characters have more of like these fantastical elements surrounding them per their abilities, which just only adds to a little bit more of that differentiation and extra kind of fun stylistic touch. Jarvan, I feel like, is pretty typical, but I just really like the kind of color and coordination there, but pretty on par with what we've seen from a number of other male outfits. Same thing with Graves. I mean, it's really straightforward. Love, especially more so of the body confidence, but really nothing outside of the realm of what we could expect or too innovative. But then we have Misfortune, and I feel like her bathing suit is just a little bit more unique, a little bit more style, like something a little bit more designer that you would maybe seek out from a select boutique or something. So it's not as on the nose, which is why I appreciate that. And her character is a little bit more of that kind of like luxury, stylish fashion anyway. Then we get into Ash and Zeri, and I feel like this is where we're getting a little bit more of that kind of like tailored, unique, slightly differentiated touch, especially as far as women's swimsuits or bathing suits are concerned. So I'm just really appreciating the extra detail there, a little bit more of the fantastical nature that surrounds their style. Braum, I'm just like absolutely so into. I think referenced him in set with regard to giving us just more of that full-on male body confidence in overall kind of character design. And I think there's also some variations where he has a little bit more of like a cropped vest or top situation. Nidali, who I just feel like is absolutely going there in terms of something that's just so much more of a unique, differentiated, custom designed like swimwear situation with the sleeves, just the way that the skirt works. It could almost just be a pretty much a typical kind of like beach party outfit, maybe not necessarily swimwear, but it definitely leans both ways. Lee Sin is just kind of like whatever, like I mean, pretty typical. I like at least a little bit of the extra touches, like the lei, the visor, at least a little bit more to kind of take it a little bit out of the cliche and the genericness. Leona's is just like, yes, like we're getting multiple layers. She's more of an armored kind of tanky character anyway, so to give her a little bit more layer, just a little bit more texture and just like stack to her overall bathing suit situation makes sense. Singed is even, I called him Singed in the Arcane review. Singed is, I feel like, a little bit along the lines of what we would expect. Covered up, like not as super body confident, which I feel like aligns with his character just like being burned by default. So I feel like I really like that kind of unique tailored touch to his design. I feel like Yon's design is especially like, yes, like we're really going there. We're getting something extra splashy, extra stylized, extra fantastical, and definitely pushes us out of a little bit of what we'd expect from a typical men's design as far as like this whole pool party, beach, swimwear, summer situation is concerned. Obviously super into it. Then we have Set, like I was already referring to it, like love the full-on body confidence, love the mega lei flower situation. It just goes there and it just gives us a little bit more punch. Then we have Talia. It's a little bit, I feel like, Overwatchy with maybe a little bit more of like a gear oriented style, but there's just some extra kind of like arm decorations and stylistic touch that just makes it a simple go-to, effortlessly cool, effortlessly beachy summer vibe for a coordinated set. But then of course, like Ocean Song Seraphine, like you already know, not only like the legendary or like the exalted version or whatever that is, but then also even the default, which I think I like the default better than like the more premium one. It's definitely just along her lines, along her vibe and along her aura and whole kind of energy and like arrangement. So you already know that she's going to be crushing it, and it's obviously so well tailored to her. So I was going to talk about some other skins, but I'm just going to pivot to these summer party skins that I didn't discover until after I started recording. They're fairly recent. I like the overall theme and vibe, especially from like a swimsuit oriented kind of concept. I feel like they look best on Samira and Katarina and Yasuo. I mean, Seraphine's looking kind of cute too, but it does feel a little samey from character to character. I'm not getting as much personalization and like differentiation as I would like to see, but they're nicely stylized, almost a little too fantastical for summer. I don't know, they're cute. It's interesting. It adds a little bit of variation to the overall summer outfit, beach kind of aesthetic that I've been discussing so far. So just wanted to at least acknowledge them. But let's get into these Marvel Rivals looks, because when I saw them in the game, I was just like, wow. Number one, they really went there. They've already been kind of creeping along a certain line that kind of makes people feel uncomfortable anyway, but they are just unapologetic with regard to the body confidence that they're willing to depict. And honestly, the way in which they depicted it, I can't say I'm completely opposed. In fact, I'm really into it. And I think it's some of the best swimsuit, beachy pool party, skin collection event situations across the games, and I can't wait to get into it. So I've already covered Rocket Raccoon and Squirrel Girl, and I feel like especially out of what what we're now getting with these newer skins, they're amongst the most conservative. And even as far as conservative designs are concerned, they're still super fashionable, super stylish, plenty well accessorized, and I feel like push the boundaries creativity wise as far as these swimsuit kind of designs are concerned. Like we've already been seeing from the ones I just covered, pretty standard. Like you get a shirt, you get some trunks, you get some bikinis, like pretty one-dimensional. I feel like Marvel Rivals gives us multiple dimensions of style, and even as far as the more kind of quirky, comfy characters are concerned, they're even given some very premium, luxurious touch, which I very much appreciate. But let's get into these newer designs that recently came out, starting with Thor. Absolutely hot. I feel like it was Ken from Street Fighter, where I think it was in Street Fighter 5, he had a shorter haircut that was like clean cut. Love this shorter clean cut style on Thor, especially. We've gotten plenty of those long locks. We know he looks great. And honestly, I was surprised they gave him this extent of body confidence. With the newer Hellfire Gala skin that I didn't cover quite yet of his, we've seen it, it's in the comics, great body confidence paired with some nice luxurious high designer touch. And so I was like, okay, they're willing to go that far with him. But then when I saw that they went full shorter trunk situation, even flip-flops, we're getting so much body. It's great. But what I love most about his design is just the crossbody bag. And when you look closely at it, it says brother with like some Loki plushies inside. When you get that juxtaposition with some cutesier elements with someone that's more typically rugged, tough, and kind of badass, it's really nice to see and just adds more duality to their character. Anyway, love it, super hot, makes me want to play Thor any chance I can get. Obviously, I got the skin. Let's get into Psylocke. Are we surprised? When I saw this, I was like, you know they love her. Like, she's a sexy muse for NetEase, obviously, and even with regard to her like animations and her kind of like MVP stuff, like they just see her as like this cute lifestyle model. So there's definitely some strong admiration and love and crush for her. Still love that they gave her a little bit of a rap, aggressively body confident, but I mean, I'm not surprised, I'm not opposed, and I feel like if there's any character that could get it, she's definitely one of them. Luna Snow absolutely slayed. I had a little bit of mixed feelings at first. I was like, wow, they really went there as far as like these like cakes out bikini wear situation. But I love the layers and like the cutout arrangement that they gave her design, especially, and then with like the crystally kind of like holographic luminescent details that kind of come up from her legs, and like she turned the water into like these icicle heels. I think that is so creative, and I think it's very specific to the character, and I think that that's what makes me appreciate it the most. It's just cool. Like, I love it. There's not much more to say. I wish there was maybe a little bit of I would have liked if she maybe did have a little bit of a waist wrap. It just would have maybe added a little extra, really helped her lean a little bit more cutesy, which I feel like she can kind of be. But at the end of the day, like, she's a strong, confident K-pop girly model situation. Like, that's not out of the realm of what a public figure, like a character like her, would do. So then we have The Thing, and similar to what I was saying with regard to Set, it's just nice to see these big burly characters get some extra cute touches like a lay, and then paired with just strictly a Speedo going on, like, it's just like full on male body confidence, unapologetic, which is why I'm not opposed to seeing like a Psylocke get her treatment and a Luna Snow get hers. Like, the guys are full on body as well, very, very skimpy. And on top of that, I didn't touch on it with Thor, I feel like we're getting bulge. all this complaints, all this phallic obsession from people wanting to see that, making it more comparable to women's designs. We're getting, I feel like, a little bit more bulge, and we on the realm of Namor's like Black Panther cinematic skin. So I just love that they're going there. I feel like it's going there. I feel like it's giving the people what they want, and I feel like it's kind of shutting some things down, like going there and shutting some things down at the same time. Leveling the playing field. Love to see it. And speaking of bulge, I mean, they don't have to be protruding, like slapping you in the face. Loki absolutely floored me when I saw it. I had to get my hands on that skin, obviously. And I think that his is what really made me just say, I love Marvel Rivals more and more each time there's new skin collections dropping at a rapid pace, at excellent quality, at just enough quantity for me to be able to celebrate. Like, as far as a male character design is concerned, like, he already goes there with regard to some differentiation. They really do spoil him with lap of luxury, just so much great designer layers and elements just to make him feel especially opulent and as high and grand as he is and like definitely carries himself to be. But just the luxurious, the robe, the reptile around the neck, the gold, the hat, the luxurious wavy locks. And I really love how the robe is even more like scaly, transparent towards the bottom. And then a Speedo on top of it that gives me Versace and with enough of a bulge. Like, I mean, I feel like we're getting everything. And of course, like his Loki horned slipper sandals, like it's literally checking every single box as far as giving more of that male body confidence that I mentioned wanting to see in a previous video. So I'm just absolutely adoring everything that they're giving us. But that's not all. I believe I saw a leak for a Punisher skin. Give us these big, burly, strong men in these skimpy swimsuits. Like, you can keep giving us an Emma Frost in some sort of skimpy stuff too if you want, as long as we're getting these big burly men in something that's just showing them in a different light, in a different way. I love to see it. A Speedo with the Punisher skull on it and like a cropped vest, like it just feels like it's going in a new direction, a refreshingly new direction. And that's not just coming from a queer perspective, that's just coming from an objective fashion and style perspective. And then of course there's Johnny Storm. His is a little bit more typical, but given that we've only really seen him in a suit orientation, getting a little bit more of that actual like human form and body confidence is nice to see. Not as like pushing the boundaries like maybe I would say a Thor, a Loki, a Punisher, or even maybe the Thing, but at least we're getting a nice full range of the full body confidence that men can feature. So keep giving it to me, Marvel Rivals. I'm a diehard at this point. All right, that was a little bit of my skim across the swimsuit styles and collections that we are getting from video game characters in a couple of different genres. Let me know what you think and what kind of variety or what kind of depiction of swimwear resonates best with your tastes, and which you think that you could maybe draw some inspiration from and apply to your own personal body confident beach summer body style. So would love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for the patience as I get back into rolling out these videos. Always got to figure it out despite how busy I am, but until the next video, I'll talk to you later.